Morning all, welcome back to My Life's Toil. I'm Neil. As if you follow the channel, thank you very much, you will know. If you're new, welcome, thank you for coming along. If you like what you see and you find it may help you with your health journey, especially with using Mounjaro, which is what it's all about at the moment, and basically getting back into some sort of healthy shape, which, as I've mentioned many times before, the reason I'm doing this is high blood pressure, basically being obese and overweight, and also having very high cholesterol. One is well on the way to getting fixed, and that's my weight, which is improving, which we'll discuss later on in this video. The cholesterol side of things is a work in progress, but it's getting a little better. And the high blood pressure is much better. And these are things that I've discussed many times before on my other videos. Today is going to be something very different for me with the use of the Mounjaro. And I've always advocated that when we get to the end of the pen, it's finished with, and I'm at the end of my pen here. But I'm very open-minded. If someone can sway me, if I can find evidence that changing things slightly off license with our Mounjaro, then if it's safe, I will look at it and I will do it. And this is definitely the case with a couple of things recently. The first one is the fact that I've been splitting my doses. So I've been on a 5 milligram dose for a little while now. But even with that, I started getting some quite strong side effects. Nothing sinister, but I was poorly, which I've discussed many times before. So I've been splitting those doses to 2 doses of 2.5 for the last few weeks. I'm now at the end of my pen, and there is approximately a dose in there, which when we say approximately, if you're going to use that, what they call the golden dose, it still needs measuring out. You don't just like use all that and say, oh, that's a dose. A dose is 0.6 mils, and any more than that could disrupt what's going on, could even just fire off some new side effects for you, and it would just throw you out of balance a little bit. So what I am going to do is, with the aid of an insulin needle and syringe, which is all complete, it all comes together, and this was given to me by a colleague who's a healthcare professional nurse, and I'm going to show you how I will draw up 0.3 mils, which is going to be a 2.5 milligram dose, because this is a 5 milligram pen, and I'm going to draw this up, and this will be this half week's jab. So today's Sunday, I jabbed on Wednesday using the last dose that I could get out of this with the clicks, which was 30 clicks. This is going to be different. It's not going to be turning the dials like I normally would. Now, if you're new to Mounjaro, or if you're thinking about starting Mounjaro or any other weight loss injections, and you're here just to see how the injection's done, this isn't the actual use of the Kwikpen that I normally do. But most of my Wednesday videos show all my jabs, and the recent ones, most of my videos show doing the jabs and using the pen to start with. So feel free to go and have a look at that if you think it could help. So this is exactly how I would get the dose from the Kwikpen. Now I've just exposed the needle on this. Now this needle is actually, if you can see, it's slightly longer than the 4 millimeters. That's more like 6 or maybe even 8 millimeters. Going to put my glasses on, but the gauge is still the same, so it's still a thin needle, but it just means it's long enough to get into the seal here. So if you look, I am going to go just into that seal there, and I'm going to hold that up that way. Now if you are going to extract this, just be really cautious about how you do it. And you might notice if you're using an insulin needle, the measurements might be slightly different. This is measured in units, and those are usually international units, I believe. So this is a 100 unit syringe, and I need to take this cap off as well, so that will show you the plunger there. So 100 units is basically 1 milliliter, and I need 0.3 milliliters, don't I, to get my dose. So literally that's into the fluid there, and I'm going to draw back more than I need, because straight away I can see that there's air bubbles coming as well. So I've gone to 0.4 mils there, or 40 units, and I'm going to push back in, just making sure any air bubbles go up to the top, and then let's have a look at this. Just push that back to 30 units, which is 0.3 mils. Gone too far. There we go. There we go. That is, in fact, there's just a little bit more than that. So I'm going to just prime the needle again, just get a bead out to 30 units. And that is ready to go. So let's try using this for this week's jab. Let's get started. So here we are again. I should have reminded you, obviously teaching adults to suck eggs, but always use some hand gel, make sure everything's clean. I've just had a shower for my skin. But now I am going to pop this back into the tummy. So expose everything. Make sure that there's no rashes, no bruises. Always be 2 inches away from the umbilicus, and I'm going to come just over this side here. I've got no bruising at all, or rashes or marks from my last jab last week, and I'm going to just give this a little bit of a pinch, because it is a slightly longer needle, but I've still got plenty of subcutaneous fat around the tummy still. And I'm literally going to go in here like so, and just carefully pop that dose in there like that, and then back out, making sure that there's no bleeding. That's all good. And then the whole needle goes into the sharps box. So that, a little bit different this week, obviously, because I always said that I'd never used this golden dose ever before. So that's my first time. And why have I done this? Because I'm hearing so many people saying that they're using it. Healthcare professionals that are using Mounjaro are using it. Doctors that I've seen on social media, professors that are endocrinologists are using it as well, and advise with care. If you let your healthcare provider know, your support network, your doctor, your GP, whoever prescribes it to you, if you let them know what you're doing, the prescriber will usually advise against it, because they have to stick within the license. But doctors and GPs, they sometimes have a different approach, the ones that do know. So I'm going to get on with, I've done my measurements again this week, so I'm going to update you with how the measurements have gone this week, and some little twists and turns on the route with them. Starting with my chest measurement. Now, I haven't measured for 2 weeks because of the changes, because of the change in the dose, because of the new weight training regime. I'm just giving it a couple of weeks off. And it's a bit of a strange one from my chest. The last time I measured 2 weeks ago was 116 centimetres, which is 45.5 inches, 45.7 inches. And I've actually grown my chest by 2 centimetres today. It's 118 centimetres, which comes out at about 46.5 centimetres. Now, I'm not too bothered about that, because I know I've been using the weights. I've been doing weightlifting with the dumbbells just for resistance exercises. As you've seen, if you've watched those videos, I'm only using very lightweight, but I have been doing that full body workout for a few weeks now. So as you turn up, I feel better in myself. I feel much fitter. I do feel stronger, feel better for it, having felt so unwell for a good few weeks before that. So I'm not too concerned about that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But my waist measurement, that's improved. 2 weeks ago it was 110 centimetres, which is about 43.7 inches. Today, 109 centimetres, so a centimetre off, which is about 42.9 inches, according to the equation that I did online. But let's get onto the weight, because I've hit a new weight bracket. Now, as you know, in the UK, a lot of people measure in stones, and I'm into the new stone bracket. Last week, I was 17 stone, 1 pound, which is 108.3 kilos, 239 pounds, And today, 106 kilos, which is 234 pounds, 16 stone, 10 pounds. And why am I pleased with this? As I say, it's a new weight bracket. That means for my next main milestone marker, which is 16 stone, I've got 10 pounds to go, which feels really achievable to me. So I'm feeling really positive about that. And it shows that what I've been doing in the last few weeks has really helped, because we'll go and have a chat in the living room now. We'll talk about the foods and how the calories have gone, and we'll do some questions and comments as well, because I'm feeling really positive this week. There's a couple of things to tell you about for in the next week or so, because I am going away next weekend. So I'll be here to do the normal Wednesday video with the jab. But then on the weekend, I'll be going away. I'm only going away for a week with the family. But I want to try and keep the plan on track. I know a lot of people sort of stop. They feel 50-50 about what they're going to do when they go on holiday. I don't want to disrupt it any more than I already have, because I don't want it to be too stop-start. And I think it's part of the lifestyle now that I've got. And it's almost like if you stop-start for certain things, and I know this is only my opinion, I think we need to make this part of our lifestyle, and whatever happens, whatever comes along, it is part of us at the moment. And I think for me especially, so that's what I'll be doing. So, but I'm going to still, it won't be in-depth videos like this, but I'll try and put some just clips about how things are going. I will be taking the pen with me for the Wednesday jab while I'm away, but then I'll be back on the Saturday, so we'll probably do it on the Sunday following. So that's that. But let's go into the living room. We'll have a chat. One of the things that I wanted to mention that I'm really happy with that happened yesterday, we hosted a barbecue. It was a lovely day. It was a sort of last minute type thing in the last sort of 4 or 5 days, really, because we knew it was going to be nice, which is unusual for us to guarantee that we're going to get a bit of weather. So we had some friends, family down last night, and sort of getting prepared for everything yesterday during the day. I was in my mind, I was saying, well, do I just like have a day off from it, and do I bother counting any calories today? Because I don't always count the calories, although I pretty much have been. It's become part of my routine without overthinking it. And when I've mentioned before about when you're on a plan like this, is to try and make it part of your routine, so you don't even think about what you're doing. It's sort of like driving a car, and that's what I've tried to do with counting the calories. Because, and I know people have agreed with me on this one in the past, is when we sort of all day we're just thinking about, oh, the Mounjaro, I've got to eat this, I've got to eat that, I've got to make sure I don't eat this, I've got to do that. And we don't want it to be that tiring on our minds, because it can be. If you can just do it in such a way that you have zones where you have to think about things, yeah, like food times. And I know it's difficult, because especially when we start this plan, everything is about this, and we sort of, everything else goes out the window, and this really takes over our life, doesn't it? Sometimes we forget to eat, and I've had a little bit of that this week again. Not in so much that I've gone all day, but just like, oh, time to have something, especially at work. And I've mentioned that many times, haven't I? But yesterday, so the barbecue went really well. I wasn't going to count calories yesterday. I was going to try and be sensible, because bear in mind, this was right at the end of the week. I could have jabbed yesterday. I could have done the injection yesterday, but I've done it today on the Sunday. But I deliberately did it today. One, because I knew I wouldn't have time to do the video, and I always want to do it on here. And I wanted to show the golden dose thing as well. And I know not everyone will agree with that, but most people tend to. And I think that's how people tend to be leaning towards now. But when I got to the end of yesterday, I'd had a couple of, I didn't have any burgers or anything like that, but I had one hot dog, I had a separate sausage, I had salady stuff, all the sides, healthy sides, and enjoyed them. Not really much of a drinker, so I was drinking pop that I normally drink, or just had some water, was always supping on water. But it was still a really good night. Everyone else ate loads of stuff and everything. Didn't bother me at all. Considering that this was the end of the week, when the suppression tends to fail a little bit on most people. Although, moving on to what I was going to say is the fact that now I'm split dosing. So it was only Wednesday, wasn't it? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday. So that's only 3 days. And then on the fourth day, I've done my second of the week. Or is it the first? I can't remember whether I started on a weekend or a Wednesday. But that's how it's going. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that this split dosing for me feels like it's working very, very well. Side effects, very minor now. I'm still getting a little bit of the constipation, of which I ended up taking a couple of Laxido this week that I was given from the doctors because it did get quite troublesome earlier on when I tried all sorts of things like the psyllium husk, the fiber gel. I've been taking supplements like your magnesium, the different types of magnesiums, all sorts of things. I've always made sure I've had plenty of fiber, plenty of fluids, but I think some people are just going to get particular side effects, and I feel that the constipation is probably a biggie, followed for me by the nausea. I have noticed that I tend to pick up viruses and bugs more. That's something that a lot of people have also mentioned, so that's an interesting one to be aware of. But don't let these small side effects be the thing that really puts you off starting Mounjaro. I've had messages and comments from a lot of people who they've actually brought the pen and it's sat in their fridge or in a cupboard somewhere, usually in the fridge, I hope, especially this time of the year. And they're just so worried about taking it. Now, the number one fear factor is the actual injection. Once you do, now I know today's injection was a bit different, but once you get that first jab out the way, you will feel on cloud nine. Believe me. Just follow all the steps. Look at some of my earlier videos when I do the Wednesdays and I go through everything. I mean, if you look at my very first one, people were pulling me up saying, "Oh, you don't need to use the wipe on there. That's to clean the pen." And that's right, but old school, yeah, that's what we do. But just follow the steps. It's really easy. The needle is so fine that you'll think nothing of it. And if you're tense and you're worked up and you'll feel it more, just be nice and relaxed and go for it, especially if you've got one ready to go. The second thing that puts people off is obviously the side effects. Now, usually the side effects, when they occur, they clear up in a short time. Usually, sometimes they come and go. Sometimes they come later, which we touched upon last week. So just don't fear them, but just be aware of them and have that little bit of planning in preparation. So you think to yourself, well, if constipation, now I'm not saying that that is the number one side effect, but that's what it looks like to me. Most people that I've seen have a bit of constipation. So just be aware of drinking fluids and fibre and having a backup plan, Docusate or Senna, over-the-counter remedies, prune juice that people have mentioned in the past, the old remedies, they always work. Just be prepared for it. And the same with the nausea, even the vomiting. Hopefully it won't last long. It should clear up, but just, the ginger type things, anything with ginger in, making sure that you're sipping at fluids. The old trick that someone wrote in with the once about smelling alcohol, the alcohol wipes, apparently the scent takes away that nausea. It actually, when I did it at the time, it does actually have a bit of a change with you. It sort of does something. It doesn't work for everybody, but it's just a little thing to try. What sort of foods have I been eating this week? Well, apart from yesterday when it was lots of, not lots, it was a bit of sausage is all I had, and a bit of chicken. Lots of salady stuff, and I think I've put out on the short when I've done the mixed salads that I love my mixed salads. Just have a bit of everything in there. It's a really nice balance of all sorts of stuff. We've had fish. I don't tend to eat much in the way of rice and pasta. If I have like a homemade curry or something, I'll just have such a small portion of rice with it. I find that I get more bunged up with eating things like especially pastas and rice. Not had much in the way of bread this week. Don't feel much of the need for it. The only bread that I recall having was that hot dog yesterday. But generally, no, I've still been using those Y foods, which meal replacement drinks at work. You make sure I get the calories. You've got the calories already recorded. Do you know one thing that I will say about those pre-made bottles of the Y foods? I don't always drink a full one. Now, I've brought a load of the 500 mils ones, and 500 mils is 500 calories, and they're fairly well balanced out. They've got all the vitamins and minerals, got the right amount of fats and things like that. Lots of protein, which is really good, and which is something that we should be doing, isn't it? Making sure that we're eating plenty of protein. I've seen a lot of questions, people talking about the losing muscle mass and things like that. Yeah, that is a real thing. There's a lot of people that aren't able to move around as much, which is why I will be doing a workout, probably after the holiday now, when we do some chair workouts to have a go. A couple of people commented on when I was doing the weights. And yes, some of my form, not being an expert at weightlifting, not being a physical trainer, but showing you a few things about how things are done from my point of view and the workouts that I've been doing. My workout's been pretty much the same standard. Hello, mate. Right, the dog's come to join me, one of them. But one of the things I've changed, now someone pointed out that, and that was the dog walking past the camera. You just feel free, mate. Yeah, don't worry. When I was doing those bent over rows, that my form wasn't good. Now, I knew that because I've got existing back problems, so it will never be 100%. So, using the bands, and I'll have to show you this at some point, I attached the handles to the band, and I had a sturdy post, make sure it was safe, like a handrail on the edge of the deck. And I was sitting up on the bench like this, and on rows like this as well. And the bands was superb for doing that. So no risk of any silly lower back injuries or straining my back. And that worked really well. The other thing that I was able to do was attach the bands to a point higher up and do some of these sort of pull downs, which is for what they call the lats. As I go along, I'll get to know all the terminology. I should know most of the terminology, being the paramedic anyway. Latissimus dorsi, was it? Okay, it's been a long time. Now, I've been given a lot of links to look through this week. A lot to look through. I have had such a busy week, both with work and prepared for the barbecue and just living life. I know I haven't got round all of the comments. I'm not ignoring them. I'll well get round to them. I tend to read them as I go because they pop up on the phone, but I've had absolutely so many. So if I haven't got round to your comments this week, I am sorry, but I'll still try and get round to it. I'm going to try and do that while I do the editing this morning. Don't let it put you off putting a comment through, or if there's any burning questions. But some of the comments that I thought would be worth mentioning today, I'm going to go through now. And some of them are just really good advice. The first one was from Jeanette Dunn, who sent me a message. Nice to see you, Jeanette. And she'd mentioned, because I'd put the links on for Amazon to get some of this gym equipment, and you can get some really good stuff off there. But she meant that you can also get it off TikTok and Temu, and there's all sorts of places that you can buy some really good gym equipment. If you look on TikTok at the moment, people are selling those dumbbells. I think you can buy them. They're not much cheaper. They're making out that they're a lot cheaper, than Amazon. But there's loads of places. If you've got any ideas of where people can get the equipment, the dumbbells, the bands, or even a bench, the gym mats, whatever might be useful for us, we'll share it all on here. And if we can save a few pennies, then that's what it's about, really, isn't it? Because we're already spending an absolute fortune on Mounjaro. Just reminded myself, I did an interview with Laurie from GLP Journey in Review, which was really good for me. And she'd set this interview up just to see how my journey was. And she does this with a lot of people, and that's going to be coming out soon. And I think that's a really good idea. As you know, I've tried to get in touch with a couple of people myself to just get their journeys. And this is something that we're going to be doing moving forward, because I'd already been in touch with someone, and I'm not going to mention names or anything yet, just people that watch, people that are involved on their own journeys, and just got something to say and share. So that's something we're going to be doing on our channel moving forward. So look out for that, and we'll do them as separate little entities as well, little videos, just to share other people's journeys. If you've got something that you want to share on here and you want to talk about how things have gone for you, let me know, and we'll line a few things up, and we can do it over the internet. We got people around the world. Laurie was from Florida, and we did it on like a Teams, not a Teams thing, it was like StreamYard or something like that. So I'm going to set something similar up for that. But if you're interested in putting something across, or if you'd be interested in having a little interview with moi, let me know. And hopefully not everyone will want to do, because I don't think I'll be able to get through everything. But we'll see what happens. A lot of people talking about this split dosing now since that I've started, and it turns out a lot of people have been doing it for a little while anyway. And yeah, I think it's the way forward if it works for you. If once a week works for you as well, and you don't want to come off what the manufacturer's guidelines state, then absolutely fine. And it's only the way it is officially because that's how the trials were done. That's how it was all put forward. I'm aware that new trials are ongoing. They will always be looking into new ways of doing things. There's new medication coming out, like they're looking at an oral pill for Mounjaro, which I think would be superb from the way of maintenance for people moving forward and people that are really just frightened about injections. So that's something to look out for the future. So that's quite exciting to think about coming up. Here was an interesting response from Teresa in response to when we was talking about the dry skin conditions, and she'd mentioned if I took D3 capsules in the olive oil, which I don't, but she said that she pops the D3 capsule with a pin and she uses the oil out of it with the D3 and rubs it on the skin, and she swears by this. Has anyone else done anything like this, and what sort of results do you get? But I thought that was an interesting point. It's a good point. If that works for you and that's improving your skin and keeping it where where it's nice, good idea. What else are people doing for their skin? I have been using some creams after I shower, not all the time. It tends to be when I remember. We've just got over here, we've still got Avon, and we'd had this bottle of pomegranate moisturizing lotion. I've had it for, it's not even mine. The wife brought it and she's never used it. And I've been using that and it smells nice. It's not about that smell at all. It's just about this dry skin, and it has helped to a certain extent. But like I say, I haven't used it every day, but it does work. So if you are noticing a bit of dryness, if that does bother you, it's a good idea. Well, like I say, make sure you're drinking plenty of fluids and just get some basic moisturizer on just to help that. But that was a good idea, Teresa, with the D3 and the olive oil, because olive oil is quite good for the skin, isn't it? Not so good for drinking too much of it, but excellent one. We were talking about collagen for the skin and if we were getting a lot of excess skin. Now, Stephen popped a message up saying that Nutrition Geeks collagen, he said, was the best around. So that's something for you to look out for. I've not done any reading up on collagen yet, but I have read a lot of the comments, and a lot of people are absolutely convinced that these collagen, I've had many brands mentioned, and I'll go through a couple of them actually. Message from Val saying she's taking the Elevate collagen daily and she swears by that, saying it works really well along with other supplements. She swears by them. So that's another one to look at as well, because quite rightly she also mentions that it's good for hair loss and your nails in general. So yeah, that's something if you're concerned about, if there's any hair loss, any brittle nails or weakening of the nails that you tend to notice, then collagen may be the thing for you to supplement with. Talking about hair loss, Antonio, I think I've recorded his screen message somewhere, was asking, just out of interest, about the hair loss and whether it's a permanent thing or if it's something that will sort of happen for some and then rectify. And from my understanding, it is like a lot of the side effects where you may notice hair loss, but it should remedy itself even whilst you're on plan. It's something that there's just a little bit disruption to something going on in the body, and some people may get the thinning of the hair or patches of hair loss. But the advice that I recall reading was that it should remedy itself as well. So it shouldn't be anything lasting. And back on to the supplements for your collagens and just in general, another message from Rach42, saying, look on the Will Powders by Davinia Taylor for all of their brands around powders to help with stuff. She's saying that these are the cleanest that she could find. She was also mentioning just to be cautious when you're shopping around for things like this, because there's sometimes ingredients in there that aren't going to be too favourable for us and certain people with certain conditions, and I'm not exactly sure what sort of things to look out for, but it would be worth doing your research first. She recommended looking on their website, so that's Will Powders, Davinia Taylor, just to have a read up about it. Apparently there's some really good information on there. I will get round to, I'll put it on the list of things to do. There's so much that I've been asked to do at the moment, but this is something that I did mention that I'd like to read up a little bit about. So just to recap then, guys, I done a golden dose today. I'll try and chat to the video again, so for those that have seen doses enough, they can come straight to the little chat here. I will be working out later on in the garden. It's going to be a nice day, so I've set a parasol up because it's bloody hot out there in the sunshine, so that's all nice. I'll try and get some little clips for you. What I will try and do, I'll put them on a separate video, put them on a couple of shorts of those new exercises using the bands. That way you can add that into your regime if that's what you need to do, if you do struggle with certain movements as well and you've got the bands. So that will be really good. As I say, I'll be back on Wednesday to do the next jab and we'll have a little chat. Not sure about what's going to happen next Saturday because I'll be driving down to the holiday. We've got a little, it's only a caravan holiday, one of these statics, down in Breen. So I'll be down in Breen from next weekend. So what I do want to try and do while I am away, like I say, is try and just show that we can sort of stay on some sort of plan really while we're away, and just trying to accommodate that this is part of our life now. And no, we're not necessarily going to be on Mounjaro all our lives, but I just think just that mentality moving forward. Just reminded myself, I got a little bit of a telling off on one of the comments last week, and to be fair, hands up, and this was about when I was talking about the end game and about having the willpower and just being prepared for the end of things, because the way that most people end up in positions like me where we end up on Mounjaro because of our lifestyles and who we are, and the willpower is not always there. And someone, I can't remember who it was, but I did want to just mention it briefly. This isn't the case for everybody. Some people it's more medical, and the fact that people have other underlying problems as to why they've ended up where they are. And I do appreciate this, but I did point out at the time that it is sort of more for the majority, and a majority of the people on here, although I do want to try and accustom this to suit everybody, and I always will. So I do apologize that I sort of put us all in the same bracket. And I'm not ashamed to be in the bracket where I know that I've struggled with food and just not having that willpower. But I'm not also at the same time, because I do see this obesity, and always have, as a disease as well, like any diseases, and whether that's a disease of the mind or something else, we're all different again, aren't we? So just wanted to mention that, and thank you for pointing it out to me. But let's leave it there. Let's have a positive week. It's going to be a nice week over here in the UK. It's probably nice everywhere else anyway. I know Australia's in the winter at the moment, but it's probably still nice, isn't it? Be positive. Any questions, try and get through to them. I will try and get through the comments. I've just been so busy now. I've still got a busy week coming up with setting up for the holiday as well, but I am trying to get through everything. Even if I give you a little like, just to show that I've read the message, I will do that, and I'll try and do most of them this morning for the ones that are outstanding. But I'm babbling on again. Have a good week. Be brave. Stick to your plan. Any problems, try and get through to me, and I'll help where I can. But have a good week. Speak to you soon. Take care.